Starting an accounting system. Accounting records are needed to manage a business properly and to prepare financial reports. Accounting information may be recorded by hand on accounting machines or on automated equipment like computers. The kind and size of a business determines how its accounting records are best kept. Regardless of the methods used, the accounting concepts and principles are the same. The accounting equation. So before we discuss the accounting equation, let us first discuss the contents of the accounting equations. First will be assets. So what are assets? Assets are anything of value that a business owns. So what are these? It may be cash, it can be the equipments, furnitures, delivery trucks, buildings, etc. So these are actually the assets of the company. Equities are the financial rights to the assets of a business. If you invest, if you have your capital, then you have the financial right for the asset that were bought by that particular capital. There are two kinds of equities: equity of persons outside the business to whom amounts are owed, and these are also called the liability, and also equity of the owner of the business, sometimes called the owner's equity or sometimes also called the capital. The accounting equation is assets is always equal to liabilities plus the capital. Balance sheet. Balance sheet, it is a business form that reports the assets, liabilities, and capital on a specific date. It has two parts. We have the heading and the body. The heading contains the name of the business, the name of the report, that is actually balance sheet, and the date for which the report is prepared. While the body of the balance sheet contains the following. First, the assets. So the assets are listed on the left side of the report. Then we have the liabilities. The liabilities are listed on the right side of the report. And the amount of the capital is listed beneath the liabilities on the right side of the report. So let us now create our balance sheet. So first, let us prepare the columns. So we have here the column for the account title. Next column will be for the values. And then the third column will be some sort of spacer. And then the fourth column will be the for account title again. So we have two sides. We have the left side and the right side. So this will be the account titles for the right side, and then again the values. So let's take a look at the steps. The first step is to write the heading on 3 lines and center each line. So let's try to do that. So the name of the company, Gulf Services. So that's the name of the business, and then the name of the report, then the date. So I'm going to select and then merge, select and then merge, select and then merge and center. Let's say I want to make this a little bigger, this one also, and maybe have this bold faced. So that will be my title. The next step is to prepare the asset section on the left side. So let us try to do that. So before we do that, let us first know the values. So these are the values for the assets. So what we're going to do is to prepare the asset side by first typing here assets, the title, and then below will be the account titles. Then place the values for cash. Then we have supplies. This one is, I think this one is golf equipment. We have the maintenance equipment. So let's format this one. So just select and then click on the comma style format. So next, prepare the liability section on the right side. Uh, Forget, let's center this one. Maybe bold face. Center this one also. And then bold face. Total liabilities, bold face. The values we have here 150,000 and 550,000. Format. Then we add both. So click on auto sum. We have the sum of the liabilities. And then immediately below, prepare the capital section immediately below the liability section on the right side. So we're going to do that now. So below, I'm going to place here. Well, how do you see? So amounting to 3.5 million. And let us also format this, center the title, then get the total. So equal to the sum of the total liabilities and Rossi capital. That will be the total. Okay. So you notice I did not place a total yet because I want them to be on the same line for asset. So I'm going to place here total assets. Then I'm going to get the total for these values. So sum, then there's something wrong. I think this one is overvalued. It should only be 900,000. So let's try to format our balance sheet. Click here and then place underline below. Here also, click and then underline below. Here also underline below. And for the totals, there should be double line below. So bottom double border. For this also, bottom double border. What's the next step? Determine that the balance sheet is in balance and complete the form. So we have now actually, or we actually have done that already. So it's balanced and we have completed our form. So that will be our balance sheet. So let's make this one bigger. So that is now our balance sheet. After we create our beginning balance sheet, the next is we have to record the values in the balance sheet in our journal. But before we do that, let us first define some terminologies used for this particular lesson. So, journal is a record in which accounting information is recorded in chronological order. So, it's according to the date or time, date and time. Opening entry is an entry to record information from the beginning balance sheet. So, that is what we're going to do for this demonstration. We're going to create an opening entry. General journal is a journal with two amount columns in which all kinds of entries can be recorded. I will be showing you that later on. Source documents for an entry, the business paper from which information is obtained for a journal entry. So these are the receipts, the checks, etc. So how do we record an opening entry? So before we discuss the steps, let's first prepare our worksheet. So I'm going to create a worksheet. Let's prepare our worksheet. I'm going to rename this one to our opening entry. So the opening entry, we have a column for the date, a column for the account titles, and usually another column for our receipts or other postings. Then we have the two columns for values. So more or less, this is how a general journal looks like. Let's try to place the labels. General journal. Actually, we have with the page number, and we have here the labels. This will be the date, and we have here account title, debit, and credit. Let us center our titles. Let's try to format it a little bit. Center both horizontally and vertically. Let's try to provide borders. So we have the borders, or let's place borders rather. So I have here now my borders. So that is how a general journal looks like. So let us now post our opening entry. So the first thing to do is to enter the date of entry. So in our general journal, we place here the date. So the date is September 1, 2020. That's based on our balance sheet. So the date of our balance sheet is September 1, 2020. So we have here now the date, which is September 1, 2020. The next step is for the debit part of the entry. So we write the amount of each asset in the debit column. But so we first write the account titles and then the amount on the debit column. So let's try to do that. So the assets are cash, supplies, golf equipment, finance equipment, and place the values. on the debit side. Golf equipment. Format. Let's make this bigger. So that is our debit side. The next step is now the credit part of the entry. Now, when entering the account titles for the credit part, we have to indent so that it will be easily recognized by readers and, of course, for readability. We have here Mailcore Equipment Company. You notice I am indenting and we place the values. So what are the values? So the values are taken from the balance sheet. So we have here 150,000, 150,000, and 3.5 million. The next step is to place the reason for the entry. Although in some cases this will be optional. But formally, we can place here the reason for entry. Again, we indent and place here the reason for the entry. So it says here that these values were taken from the balance sheet dated September 1, 2020. And that is our opening entry. After our opening entry, the next step will be posting the values or the entries to a ledger. So before we do that, I'll be explaining here some terms that we'll be using for this part. So first is a chart of accounts. So the chart of accounts, in this chart of accounts, each account in a ledger is given a name and a number. The list of account titles and numbers showing the location of the accounts in a ledger. So that's the chart of accounts. It's a list of account titles and numbers showing the location of the accounts in the ledger. So the account title is the name given to a separate ledger account, and the account number is the number given to an account. So I'm going to show you here an example or a chart of accounts. So I have here the chart of accounts. So you notice I have here now my account titles. So these are account titles. Let's make this bigger. So this is my chart of accounts. So these are account titles, and these are our account numbers. So for the number for our assets starts with number one, and for liabilities it starts with two, three for capital, four for revenue, and five for expenses. So these are the numbers. Again, these are the account numbers, and these are the account titles. And the whole is what we call the chart of accounts. So let's now prepare our ledger. First, the columns of the will be the columns. Let's say this is for my. I'm going to prepare only two accounts, but of course, in reality, we have to prepare accounts for all of the account titles. But in my case, I'm going to prepare only two, just to demonstrate how are we going to post the values or the entries. So I'm going to use cash, and the other one is Elcor equipment. Go back to cash. Let's first prepare the columns of the ledger. So the first column will be the date. Then we have the account title. Then maybe another for reference, and then the values, another for date on the credit side, account titles, post reference, and then the value. So I'm going to make it a little bigger. Place the labels. So we have your date. Actually, it's called item, but these are the account titles. Post reference. We have here debit. Then the same, we have date, item, post reference, and then we have here, instead of debit, we have here credit. So let us center all our titles. Usually we have here account number with account title. So let's place borders. Center. Maingal. Okay, so this is our ledger. We have the debit part. So this part, the left part is our debit part, and the right part will be our credit part. If you notice, the two parts are quite similar, except that here we place debit and here we place the title credit. So let's just copy this for the other accounts. But as I've said, I'm going to create only two accounts. So that's the our ledger. So how are we going to place our entry? So this one is for cash. At the account title, we type the name of the account title, which is actually cash. Then here we place the account number. So what's the account number for cash? So based from our chart of accounts, it is actually 11. So here we're going to place also 11. And then in our opening entry, notice that cash is actually on the debit side. So that's what we're going to do also. So in our ledger, we place here the date, which is September 1, 2020. Then for the item, we just place here balance. Then we place here G1. So where did I get G1? This is our general journal. And this value actually is coming from page 1 of our general journal. That's why we place here general journal page 1 or G1. Then we place here the value, which is 1.1 million. Try to format that. So that's it. That will be my entry for the ledger for cash. So let's now try to do the entry for Melcor Equipment Company. So the same, I'm going to place here the account title. So the account title for that is Melcor Equipment Company. So I'm going to place here Melcor Equipment Company. Account number is 2121. Let's take a look at our opening entry. Melcor Equipment Company is on the credit side, so on the right side. So in our ledger, we're going to place a date on the right side also. So this should be September 1, 2020. Then we have here balance. That means this is the initial balance. So coming from G1, so general journal page 1, and then we have here now the value, which is actually 650,000. Let's just format this. Then that's it. So we have now our entries for the ledger. for the cash account and the Melcor Equipment Company account. So we're going to do the same thing with the other accounts. Just remember, for assets, we'll be placing the debit part on the left side for the opening entry. And for the credit side will be on the right side of the ledger. And that's all.